Hi, everyone, and welcome to Xencelabs' Creative Life Common Threads series. We're here to weave together the dots that connect the common threads of creative life by talking about health, our stories, processes, and growth. I've brought our wonderful friends, Deepa, James, Omar, and Bless back so we can chat about creative life from all of their wonderful perspectives. So let's begin. I'd like to have each one of you kind of introduce yourselves and I want to see who you are. Tell everybody who you are. Welcome.
Want alphabetical order? Yeah, go ahead, Deepa.
Sure.
No, let's do alphabetical. Go, Bless.
Okay, so hi, I'm Bless. I am a psychotherapist. I am a mindset coach. I am a Reiki master, and I am an all-around cheerleader and supporter. I work with CrashBell, and they are amazing, providing support, mental, emotional, spiritual support to anyone who's seeking. So I'm super happy to be here.
I just had to quickly work out my alphabet. So my name is Deepa mann-kler. That's really impressive, Bless, all the things that you're doing. I run an immersive technology company. I am visiting professor in immersive futures with Ulster University. I'm an artist. I serve as a non-executive director on a few boards. I've got a really strong, passionate interest in terms of equality, diversity, and inclusion. And that value basis probably weaves all the different things I do together. I'm really interested in tech in terms of how it can enable humans to be more human. And looking forward to talking to everybody today.
All right. Well, I think I'm next. How's it going, everybody? My name is James Pack. I am a concept artist and educator. I work mainly within the video game and film industry, which is kind of fun. It definitely has its perks of being creative and channeling back to your, inner child. And I also work heavily again within education, and I'm one of the co-founders of a school called Brainstorm School, which we help try to provide top quality concept art education to everybody out there around the world, and try to make it affordable. And I'm really honored to be here to discuss mental health. A lot of artists and creatives, that's a big topic for everybody. So I'm really honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Wow, that was all amazing, everyone. What a lineup. My name is Omar Davis. What am I? What do I do? I do a lot. I have many things that I work on. I guess to start off, I am a licensed massage therapist. I had my education in anatomy and physiology. I began to create curriculum on anatomy and physiology to not only teach kids and humans more about their body and pairing the mind-body connection, but also to really understand the emotions and how we emote and how we react. I worked a lot with the community. I founded CrashBell specifically to work with the community. So we work with young boys, young girls, by helping them be emotionally intelligent. And we also work in the corporate space specifically to bring people information on self-care and mindfulness. We try to make it as practical as possible. I've learned through my years of understanding is that we tend to make things super difficult for ourselves. So CrashBell wants to make it as practical as possible for us to understand our mind, body, spirit connection. So there it is.
Amazing. Welcome, everyone. We are so excited to have you here on our channel today. So I'm going to open it up right out the gate, and I'm going to ask everybody, what does creative health mean to you?
That's a great question.
Jump in. Yeah, I'll jump in. I'll be the first sacrificial lamb. It's fine. I usually am. So what does creative health mean to me? It means, because I'm someone who works with energy as a Reiki person, and the mind, right? To me, it means balance. It means allowing the energy, which is creative energy, honestly, at all times, right? Allowing that energy to flow through. So being aware of where it's being blocked, right? Where it's kind of stopping as it flows through. And then taking the initiative to manage that, to alleviate that in some way, to balance that, right? So to me, creative health is awareness, right? Really good, great awareness, body awareness, mind awareness, but also courage, because once you identify your block, once you identify what's there, how do you move through it, right? And getting the support to do so can sometimes require a lot of courage. And then action, right? Really taking the steps, because you can go to the doctor, they can give you, in physical health, you can go to a doctor, they can give you a prescription, still on you whether or not you take the medication, right? So like, even if you have said, oh, there is a blockage, right, in my energetic flow, and you took the time to seek out the support, right? And then you get the support from a Reiki master, and I say, hey, do this exercise, right, when you're home, or do this breathing when you're home. You're not with me. Ultimately, that's on you, right? And so it's kind of those, in my mind, it's those components, right? And so that comes back to a sense of worthiness, self-love, what you think you deserve, all of those things go down the rabbit hole. So that's creative health to me.
If I can jump in, man, that's like everything that you said, Bless, it hits so much to the soul, so much to the heart. And I just want to add on top of that, from the experience that I come from as an educator within concept art, within the art community, is that for a lot of people, the art tool became a way to express and became a way to communicate in a way that was more open to themselves. Maybe in some way there was an expression, a difficulty to express in another way, creates frustration sometimes. I just have I have a 1-year-old son right now, and it's allowing me to really realize, the frustrations that they have, because they don't know how to communicate yet. And those frustrations build up, and you can see it in their eyes, the way their body language, everything. And I think that becomes a way to create that creative health, that creative health in a way where, for artists, and brainstorm school kind of think about the 3 C's, okay? And that's a way to communicate, a way to have a community, and a way to create. My son, once he started to learn a little bit of these like baby sign language that you'd see in like movies and TV, his frustration level really dropped dramatically, because now there's a way to express. And I think for creatives and artists, learning ways to communicate, which is sometimes learning how to draw, being in a community where you're with other people that are into that type of language, into that type of, communication, you feel that maybe there's more to this, maybe there's more belonging here. And I feel that at ways that can reduce some of that stress, reduce some of that, that load that might be on you, and really create more openness. So yeah, that's kind of like where I kind of see it. And I feel that creating images, creating stories, moments, are really healthy things, for the mind and body. So yeah, just wanted to add that to my part.
I absolutely love what you're both saying. I think, for me, it's almost about, it's taking care of the fundamentals of sort of basic needs almost as a human being as well, and having that awareness, but sort of looking after your body in terms of feeding it good things, and I follow the 80-20 rule in life, that if you do good things for 80% of the time, it's okay to be naughty for 20% and maybe eat slightly unhealthy, just to keep life interesting, and looking after yourself physically, but also spiritually, and your soul, and having that sort of sense of self-awareness. And we talked about this earlier in the week as well, that inner dialogue that you have in your own mind, maybe, being kinder and more loving to yourself, and it not immediately going straight to a sort of critical voice, which, I mean, it's something I've had to really, really work on. And I suppose having an awareness of where you are sort of each day, and, if you're perhaps not feeling 100%, well, what do I need to do today? Do I need that bike ride today? Do I need to be out in the open? And I mean, a couple of days ago, I was on a bike ride and somebody was cutting the grass, and that smell of the grass, it was the first cut of this season. And it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's been totally worth being in the freezing cold and the wet just for that. And just sort of appreciating, I guess, that moment. So for me, it's self-awareness, and also, I guess, connectedness. And it's interesting what you're saying, James. I'm really aware, in terms of other work that I do, that loneliness can be a really debilitating factor in so many people's lives. And just even going out and saying hello to people or talking to people in the shops, it suddenly makes you feel alive in different ways. And so for me, it's like if those things are taken care of, then creative health is taken care of.
Yeah, everything you guys said is absolutely spot on. I would have to say, for me, creative health is also just really like tapping into the idea of inspiration, which kind of comes from an open mind. You have to, you do have to have that curiosity of the child. When you have this open mind concept, you have this this reality that something could come of it, right? Something you're like looking and open to ideas to come to you, versus whenever you're siloing yourself and you come in and you're in a not healthy mind, then you literally are closed off. You're like, I don't care. Everything is about my victimhood, and I need people to see me as a victim. And then we specifically go out to validate that victimhood, right? And so what is really important is the concept of awareness, like Bless, well, everyone was stating, is being aware from the moment you get up, like, hey, how do I feel? And I find this is the greatest question that any human could possibly ask themselves on a daily basis. How do I feel? And then be honest, right? Be honest, be super honest. And whenever it comes to the negative side effects of how you may feel, that courageousness, like that responsibility and that accountability to put yourself in a state where you can be in free flow, where you can be in a space where you can receive. A lot of times, especially in our society, we've been shown only self-criticism and self-doubt. So that is our first go-to. It's like, as soon as we like, it's like, let's just punish ourselves and make ourselves suffer immediately. And that obviously stops the, parts of your brain literally from functioning. And from an anatomy perspective, whenever you're in a state of sympathetic nervous system or fight or flight or fear and worry and doubt and all this stuff, you literally have no frontal cortex. You have areas of your brain that shut down that actually stimulate creativity. So you're not going to find creativity whenever you're in a space of self-sabotage. You're not going to find creativity whenever you're isolated and lonely and putting yourself in a box. The only way you find is by switching the system from fear, danger, to safety and relaxation. And that is a breathing technique. That is putting your feet in grass. That is going out and smelling that first grass of the ride, or talking to someone on the street. It can be anything to stimulate that simple mind switch, which will then activate those endorphins. And then from there, you can switch anything. You can just be open to whatever. So creative health, that's a huge question. There's so much more to it. But from there, I'll just end with that.
Can I just add one more thing? And I feel like this is really, really important. Grace is important, because please give yourself grace. We have had the last 3 years in a pandemic, right? Not to mention like all of the other things that are at play in life, right? And then, as a psychotherapist and as someone who identifies as neurodivergent, sometimes your brain is literally different, right? So you're actually not processing the same way and not outputting the same way as other people. And so you can fall into that comparison trap, right? And then that can even stifle the creativity more, okay? So giving, and then with ADHD and autism, you literally do what's called hitting a wall where, you know what, you feel like you're shut down. That's when you need to shut down, you know? And so giving yourself grace and really incorporating that into whatever the creative practice is that you already have is so, so important. You are doing yourself a favor, you are doing your art a favor, and you are doing the world a favor by just sort of being a little bit kinder. I don't know, remember who said it, but just that level of compassion and kindness, and like positive self-talk toward yourself. Okay, that's really important as well.
I have a question sort of to present that I would love to sort of get some feedback on. I think so. One of the things that is kind of interesting is that in the art community that I'm a part of, and I'm sure there's many industries and cultures that kind of follow this, is that there's this interesting culture of really overworking in our field. Okay, and then and people tend to wear that with a badge of honor. You know, oh, I did this much work. I did 60 hours, 80 hours. I drew for 14 hours today. And there is that kind of culture. And I the thing that everyone's talking about here about awareness and trying to use that awareness to create that voice to, you know, navigate around that space. How does one create that awareness when there's this pressure, you know, in the industry? Is there, you know, any voice on that perhaps, guys? Because, you know, a lot of the people that I encounter, they're in that zone, you know.
I mean, from personal experience, I used to be, well, I still am a creative, an artist of many sorts. You know, my greatest gift was self-inquiry. And so it is never going to be easy for someone to address whatever it is that they're going through, but you have to start somewhere. So self-inquiry is always the first go. Like, you cannot know anything without questioning, like a scientist. You know, whenever you do a science experiment, you're creating a hypothesis, you know, for your thesis, and you're going through the process of examination. Now, let's just think if science went like this, where you went through the process of scrutiny, right? Just only judgment, only criticism, and talking about the hypothesis and the thesis negatively. Now, this is how we do in life. We don't look at ourselves from the observation standpoint, but of the subjective. So we subjectify ourselves to everything. And from there, we try to, something you said that I want to point out, we try to validate our worth by wearing that badge of how much I've done to stimulate an emotion that is not going to ever be stimulated. And this is where we run ourselves through. Whenever you're working 65 plus hours a week, I'm just going to say this: stop it. Stop it. It's up to you, not up to your boss, not up to your manager. It's up to you to say, you know what? I need to find a place for myself within this. If you're not giving yourself the priority, then it's never going to be balanced. You're never going to be able to come back to that sense. And the awareness, it's just simply taking a very keen look at yourself. And I mean keen, like literally. If you don't know what the definition of keen means, and look it up, please, and get a firm understanding. You have to really see. And then you have to really understand, like, hey, maybe I had some trauma and I need to go to therapy. Hey, maybe this is a little difficult and I need some space to talk about it. Hey, maybe I'm not even sure if I can do that part, right? And so the awareness is just simply acknowledgement. And that could be difficult if you've never acknowledged. The first time I looked at myself, it was gross. It was gross. I was actually disgusted with my behaviors, my trauma, everything that I saw. So I had to take the necessary steps for that, for me to become aware of Omar. And it wasn't just about the human aspect of Omar. You know, there's more to me than just this physical body. You know, if I close my eyes and I shut my mouth and I have thoughts, where are they? Where are they coming from? Who is that that's speaking? Who is that that's coming up with this idea that to even have a thought, if I'm not moving my mouth or my eyes aren't open? It's blank nothingness. So the question is, who is that part? Who is that? Who's the one that can think for you or run your entire autonomic nervous system? Like your heart's beating right now. There's blood rushing through your body. What's doing that? What is it? That's how keen we have to be. We have to really take a fine look. That was a great question, though.
I totally agree kind of with that. I mean, I think it's a really interesting question because it's something that I've consciously started this year with wanting to actually work less. But the time that I do spend working is on things that I really value, and that I can feel that there's going to be growth in. And I absolutely appreciate the luxury that I have because I'm self-employed and I have that freedom to make those choices. And that has come out of a reflection of last year in terms of some of the types of things that I've been chasing have been directly linked to a sense of self-worth. And it's been so false. And I actually had a realization last year that whatever I set myself the target for, it's never going to be enough. You know, so what is it that I'm actually chasing? And why am I linking my sense of self-worth to that? And it's like, so that was a really lovely moment just in terms of that realization. And then it was like, okay, I have this lifetime on this earth. I have maybe 20, 30 years, hopefully, of healthy life ahead of me. That's 20 or 30 summers, winters, autumns, and springs. You know, what do I want those to be? And that's really helpful in terms of focusing, because, you know, I'm definitely in the final sort of trimester, hopefully, of my life. And so meaningfully, the deepest things I'll leave when I leave this planet and go on whatever happens next is hopefully love and connections in terms of the human beings that I've been fortunate enough to have in my life. And beyond that is kind of this sense of life well lived, and that thing that Bless was saying earlier about not being so judgmental, just living and finding joy. And that has definitely come out of COVID over the last 2 to 3 years. Just how it's really focused me in terms of what are the things that give me joy in a deep way, not a superficial, shallow way. And those are being with family, being with friends, and having those shared loving experiences. And then, you know, what are the things around work that I really value? What are the things that I can kind of give back in terms of, I sit on boards so I can have an impact in terms of, you know, maybe pushing the equality, diversity, and inclusion agenda in a way and helping sort of younger people up and mentoring, etc. So I think James, your question's amazing. And it's unfortunate that our society does wear those sort of long hours as a badge of honor. But I think something will change. I think there is a kind of movement amongst people in terms of quality of life. You know, what is the point of working those crazy hours if all you're doing is well, you're not spending quality time with people at the end of the day, you know? So I think there has been sort of over the last couple of years, just a pause to give people time to breathe. And it's going to be, I think the way that we're perhaps going to see it the most is in terms of hybrid working and people not wanting to come full time back into the office. It's going to, and economic reasons as well, in terms of, you know, as a society, as machines take over in terms of jobs. I think we're also going to see people moving to a 4-day week because the economics of that have become far more compelling. And you've got organizations like Dan Price, who pays his employees a living wage. So everybody gets paid $70,000 a year, everybody. And that's a meaningful salary where people are not having to have 2 or 3 jobs. And, you know, and that's from the cleaner right up to the chief exec. And I think those sorts of discussions I find really, really exciting.
Oh my gosh, people, just like all of that, Omar, all of that. James, I love this question. I don't even know I don't even know what thread I want to pull at first, but as someone who is in the mental health field, okay, I have to address this from two different sort of lenses, right? Because I did spend 25 years, the first part of my life, as a creative, and I'm still a creative, right? But being someone who is now in mental health, there are reasons. Okay, so to answer your question specifically, why would people be working 60, 50, 60 hours a week? Well, capitalism, trauma. Those are the answers to your question, right? And so the trauma can look a lot of different ways, right? The trauma can look like, feelings of low self-worth or low self-esteem, or feeling like you need to catch up with everybody else, or all of those things that you would go to therapy to unpack and say, hey, this is like Carl Jung said, you have to make the unconscious conscious or it will drive your behavior and you will wonder why, right? So going to therapy to have someone help you to unpack why you are doing it. That follows with a webinar I did that I call the healing paradox, right? Which is that it hurts to heal. And we tend to subsume our healing underneath work, right? So you get someone who is working 60, 70 hours a week. Guess what? They're doing that because they don't want to actually pay attention to what is really going on with them, right? There was a study that was done that said people like to get electrically shocked as opposed to sitting with themselves for longer than 5 minutes. People can't sit with themselves for 5 minutes. They would rather get shocked by electricity. All right. So when you ask people, why are you working so? Because I don't want to think about myself. That's the short answer. Okay. But bigger than that, all jokes aside, as a psychotherapist, if you find that you are have enough energy to be cranking out 60, 70, 80-hour weeks, you're not sleeping, you're just on it. And then a week goes by, a week later, you can't even get out of bed because you have burnt out. That is what we call bipolar. That is not actually just regular. So if you find that you have so much energy that you can create for the 5 days straight, can't sleep because you're so creative, that is actually a red flag that I would like for you to go and have checked out, okay? Because it is not actually through the lens of capitalism, not okay. Through the lens of self-worth, not okay. Through the lens of your energy and your healing and your balance, not okay. And then through the lens of mental health, honestly, please go and talk to someone. Because let them help you to understand why that is happening, because it does happen. People who are in the mania phase of bipolar will paint their whole house. Okay, they will paint the entire inside and outside and then go out to a bar afterwards. Okay, so if you find that you are having those levels of energy, I'm happy that you are channeling it into something creative. That is wonderful. I'm absolutely here for that because I would rather you do that than run out and go sleep with people. Okay. So please continue to channel it into something creative. However, also take note of it and please go and look a little deeper into it because it could be indicative of something else. Okay. That's what I wanted to share.
I definitely had a comment, but I know there's some questions. But Ansley, is there anything we need to move on to? Can I comment?
Yeah, just continue. You guys are having a ball, and I'm gonna keep putting everyone's questions into the chat box in here. So, if you peek at it and you say, "Oh, let me answer that question while I'm talking," I'm just gonna keep doing that. I'm gonna let you guys keep rolling.
Well, I'll be really quick. Because I did see that the question that came in referring to, whenever I stated just stop, and then going back to what Bless was speaking of, the run of the mill is the triggers of fear. Let me just read the question. Having to work with clients, freelance work, personal portfolio work, having to put yourself out there, et cetera, having 65 plus hours a week. Now, the other part of that is when you say you get underpaid and having trouble getting their bills paid. That right there, everything that is just read was capitalism and trauma and fear, because fear is trauma. Like regurgitated fear over and over is called trauma. And so for you to be in a specific position where you have the mind that you have to put in this amount of work or you're not going to be able to provide for yourself, two questions for you there. Is it worth it? And is there something you can do away from that to not only stimulate your joy, but also that you can monetize? Like I found ways to monetize the things that I love to do. I created a business where I can do video editing. I can draw. I can go use my camera. I can go and do dance moves or something. I can do anything that I want to do within that space. And I've created a container to find ways to monetize those ideas. Now, it's very important that you also listen to what Bless just said, because it is about the fact that looking at yourself and dealing with yourself. See, people think mental health is just going to a therapist. No, mental health is accountability for your own actions. So you have to be accountable for you. You have to show up the best for you. And whenever you don't know how to do that, you ask for assistance. You reach out to people in your community. You find a community that's going to support you. But for the most part, what you don't do is keep regurgitating these thoughts, talking about, well, if it wasn't for this, because this is an excuse. Like we do this often. We'll say, well, it's not just stop. It's easier said than done. And don't get me wrong, it is easier said than done, but that doesn't mean you can't do it. So we do that. We'll give ourselves all the reasons to just get out of it, especially in the industry where people are expecting things quick. So you don't have to react in a way that's going to make you feel like crap. You don't have to respond in a way that's going to make you feel that you are not enough and you cannot and you're not good enough, period. And so it is, I know we've been on this journey. I've been on this journey for 10 years. And don't get me wrong, the first 3 years sucked. It sucked. It was terrible. It was so hard. It was so difficult. I cried a lot. I had to apologize to a lot of people. I had to apologize to myself. I had to apologize to my kids. I was a terrible dad. I had to go and apologize, or actually I had to call out people that hurt me. That's difficult, right? Hey, mom, you hurt me. Hey, dad, you hurt me. Hey, brother and sister, you hurt me. Hey, world, you hurt me. But I had to be accountable for Omar, and I had to get through it, and I had to push, and I had to only be responsible for me. So that's the answer to that. Responsibility for yourself.
Just to kind of jump in and kind of talk about some of the questions really fast. And Omar, I think you're, man, dude, like everybody here is, God, it's like so nice talking to you guys.
You guys are awesome.
This is great. I love it. But one of the things is I love to cook on the side, and I remember the first time cooking, it was so overwhelming trying to do a recipe that I couldn't balance, like boiling water and chopping the onions, and I was just like flabbergasted, right? I was so lost, and it stressed me out. I didn't want to eat it, right? And then later cooking a little bit more, I realized it's all about timing. It's about what to do first, second, and third. And I think some of this stuff is all loaded together into one step that it becomes super overwhelming, a super ginormous task that maybe you or I will push it off and it'll become even more bigger. So I think something like this is actually about breaking it down, and just learning how to do the first, second, and third steps. So number one for creatives, and I see this as one of the biggest pitfalls, is that we do a career with what we love, so that there's a dividing line where it has to be for the commercial use or for monetization or living. And then there's another one where it's also about building the soul, the hobby, the passion as well. Finding that dividing line for me has been one of the most rewarding things, because I know how to turn this off and turn this on to feed me and do that sort of balance in between. So for SH33, I think it's about finding that kind of way to order it, you know, find that recipe that makes it really easy step by step, you know, something like that.
If I can just follow up with James, that is, we in coaching, we call it chunking. Okay. Chunk it into bits. It does not have, listen, there is a whole model of change that we work with in psychotherapy. People don't change overnight. It just doesn't happen. We live, I don't want to get too woo-woo, but we live in a 3-dimensional world, okay? Things take time to manifest in the 3-dimensional world. We're shifting, but we're not there yet. So it's okay to break it up into pieces so that it's not so overwhelming that it feels like your entire world is being upheaved, okay? Like I said, the trans-theoretical model change, there's pre-contemplation, contemplation, action, maintenance, and relapse, all right? You have to go through these stages. We all do. So this is where the giving grace comes in, all right? Instead of looking at it as, I need to get from point A to point B, and this is going to address the next question from the rebel camp of anxiety and fear. Instead of going from point A to point B, I'm gonna sound real cliche right now. Enjoy the journey. It's not about getting from point A to point B. It is, I got from point A to point A.5. I got from point A to point 8.10. You feel me? Like it's okay because you have been, I don't know how old you are, right? But let's say, you're 30. Okay. So by the age 10, we're fairly aware, that's 20 years. 20 years you've been building this habit of like hustle, suffering on my sleeve, right? 20 years. Give yourself some time and some grace and some patience to learn a new way. We don't have enough time to get into neuroplasticity and how the brain works and how it takes time. Literally, you are building new neural pathways when you begin to change your thinking. You have got to give yourself and your brain some time to do that. Okay. And then as far as the anxiety and fear and not creating from that space, be wherever you are. Where are you today? We are here I'm in Brooklyn. It's snowing outside. I am nice and cozy. I ain't thinking about tomorrow. If I want to create something, I'm going to create from that space, right? And it's not to say that I am not guilty of falling into anxiety and fear from time to time, because guilty, but it's about not staying there, okay? Enjoy this journey. Like Deepa said, we got one life in this incarnation. We don't know what happens after that. So why are you trying to rush through it? Why are you not stopping to enjoy it? There's 5 core emotions, 6. The 6th one, sometimes they include is awe. If you find that you are too overwhelmed, that things are moving too fast, that you have 65 hours in a week and you got 8 clients that are all blowing up your phone, go outside, find a shaft of sunlight and stand in it, so that you can remember who you truly are and what you are truly doing here, because it is not to be catering to clients. If you can, guilty, go hug an actual tree, because there is an energetic exchange that happens when you do that. Okay, so if you are feeling overwhelmed, if you are feeling anxious, you are feeling fearful, ground yourself by reminding exactly what Deepa said, exactly who you are and why you are here. And it is not to grind yourself down for the sake of capitalism. And if nobody ever told you that, I will be the one to tell you that today. You're not here for capitalism.
We all need a bless in our lives. It's like I want you on my shoulder all the time. I mean, it's about being really honest as well, isn't it? Really brutally honest with yourself and just cutting out all the crap. And I think, and if there are sort of changes that you want to make in your life, a really helpful route or method for me has been, if somebody is doing what I want to be doing, I go and talk to them, and understand their process and seek their advice. And 99.9% of the time, people want to help each other. And if, say, it's 0.1% that don't, then, you know, that's on them. And that has always been really, really helpful. So I've set myself some new targets. And this year, I would love to have an XR festival in Belfast. I have no idea how to do that. So I've reached out to other people who have organized festivals before. And what's really, really lovely is I'm meeting new people. I'm connecting with new people. Something I hadn't anticipated at the start. And there's really lovely new relationships coming out of it and my own learning. So I'm out of my comfort zone, but I know that I need to keep doing that as well, because that's the learning part and that's where the growth comes. And when I was thinking about sort of starting on sort of the XR Festival journey, it felt overwhelming. So I was frozen. I didn't do anything for a few days. So I let it sit in me and I was like, okay, so what's a first step that I can take? Okay, I can write an email to this person, right? So they then reply to that email. We then set up a talk, and that has led on to something else. And there's time then to reflect and digest and then move on to the next thing. So I think, you know, the longest, what is it? The longest journey begins with a single step. And that's so important. And also just in terms of what Bless was saying about anxiety and fear, and I know there was a question, if that's there, it's just about not being judgmental around that. You know, I think we blame and we judge ourselves constantly. Like, am I not happy enough? And, you know, I mean, social media has a lot to answer for this, and everything that is kind of, not everything, but there's a sense of that is normal. And that's not the case. That's a split second for a split moment in time. We have no idea what's going on, and we don't need to know. It's about our own sense of self. So, you know, if I'm feeling, I know that, again, this is something I've had to work on. If I've been feeling anxious or fearful or nervous or down, I then have ended up in the past blaming myself. So then you feel even worse about that. And it's this awful, awful cycle, you know, but just having brought some kind of awareness and then shifting the tone of that voice and turning that voice into the way I am with other people and turning that loving in on myself, I think has just been really, really helpful. But it's been from hearing and listening to amazing people like yourselves.
Yeah, I just want to jump in on that because that was amazing. And to even back what you all are saying, for one, plasticity, which is a super hard word to say, especially if you're chewing gum. But it's actually whenever the brain is able to reorganize and learn new things by building neurological pathways within the mind, only based on practice. So practice is literally a habit that you build over time. The more consistently you do it and the focus that you have, the quicker you will actually build the neurological pathways within your brain. I've taught myself how to use my left hand when I was in my 20s. I can write, throw a ball, throw a football, shoot a basketball. I can do everything with my left hand that I can do with my right hand, because after I learned about neuroplasticity, I said, I can do anything now. So I taught myself to use the opposite side of my body just as efficient. I can draw with my left, I can draw with my right. It took time. I had to go out, throw the ball with my son, write with my right hand. It was a process, and the journey was beautiful. It wasn't just like I woke up and I was like, I'm so amazing with this hand now. No, it took time. And the other part is about the plasticity. We learn. It's all about building. We've learned self-sabotage, fear, self-doubt is a learned pattern. Our society shows us how we've learned it. Anywhere you look in society, anywhere you look, fear, self-doubt. I have not seen one platform that says you are the most amazing being on this planet and I validate you because you are love. Haven't seen nothing, even in religion, haven't seen nothing like that. But the truth of the matter is, just like Deepa said, 99.9% of the time, humans are looking to be of help and service. It is our natural instinct to want to assist someone through the act of empathy because, oh no, that sucks. Oh no, let's help. Empathy is our superpower. But we live in a society where they say empathy needs to be squashed all the way down. Therefore, we can't even relate to each other now. We only look at each other with scrutiny and judgment. But the issue is that when we are in these spaces of today's world, all these components that are compounding on your life, the timeline for change is the action period of change. You have to take baby steps every day to do it. I started my self-healing journey when I was 28. I'm now 40. It took 12 years for me to get here, but every day, step by step. Some days I'm like, you know what? I'm the worst person today, but I'm like, don't talk to yourself that way. You don't deserve that. And that's actually a phrase I developed for myself. Omar, you don't deserve to be treated that way. You would never let anyone treat you this way in real life. So why are you letting yourself treat you this terribly? Be nice and be kind to yourself, Omar. And it's a conscious shift, everyone. It's a conscious shift. We are forced with the pandemic to become consciously aware of our state of being. Now, what we noticed is our state of being wasn't awesome because we got all of our comforts, all of our distractions, all of these things that allowed us to focus on other things. But now we have to sit with ourselves and learn, who am I? What am I? Why do I do the things that I do? Do I love this? This is stressing me out. Hence why people are quitting their job, because they're realizing that, oh no, I don't actually want to do this for life because my life sucks right now in this position. So they change it. But at the end of the day, it comes down to that one aspect: awareness, self-accountability, and then the journey begins. And this is where you will start meeting those people in your life that are going to support you. The moment you step up, I guarantee you, the universe will step right. It'll match you step for step, step for step, step for step. There's times you want to talk about manifestation. There are times where I chose to do something, I turned the corner, and what I was choosing to do, a person was there to deliver it. And even with Deepa, we're going to talk about that festival, and we're going to get that going. We're going to find ways to make it happen. So with that, I just want to encourage all of you that there is no right time for change. It's only the now. That's it.
Can I say one last thing? One last thing. Okay. So to Omar's point, right? You're usually fear lives in your amygdala, right? At the most basic level, lives in your amygdala. Your amygdala learns through experience. You can sit and talk till you are blue in the face. Your amygdala will not get it until you actually engage. It's experiential learning, okay? So if you are anxious, if you are afraid of something, please try to identify what that is and then go do it so that your amygdala knows it's not the end of the world, right? Like it's not, you're not going to die, you're not, right? So like, that's why you're feeling that sense of fear and anxiety, right? So challenge it with your amygdala loves evidence. Okay, so go challenge it with some evidence and say, look, I did it and I didn't die. I'm still here. That's how you do it. And then do it again, because that's what Omar is talking about. And then do it again. And then do it again. Okay, that's how you change that. So to the question of how long does change take? It is completely up to you. As a therapist, they teach us we can't work harder than our clients. I can't work harder than you if you're in a session with me. It's completely up to you how far you want to go, how deep you want to go, how fast you want to go, right? There are different ways that are healthier than others, right? Like I'm not going to let you dive into your trauma right away, but how fast you choose to go in your own healing on your own journey is completely up to you. All right. The second part of that is to Deepa's point. Listen, independence is the biggest bamboozle out here. Nobody is independent. We are not independent. We are interdependent. Okay, we are interdependent. You are not dependent. You are not independent. We need each other. It does not mean that you cannot function on your own. You absolutely can. But you function better when you have friends and partners, right? And to bring it back to capitalism, because I have an issue with it, is capitalism wants you to think you're independent. Capitalism wants you to think you have to do it all on your own. And you don't, because you get further together, right? Look at me and Omar. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get further together, okay? So don't be afraid of like, and yes, most people want to help you, and for whatever reason, their own reasons, but go and find those people, declare it, claim it. Like, I have a whole new thing, program I'm launching this year, reclamation, because this is the year that we claim it, claim it. I have partnerships, I have collaborations, I have people that support me, I have a network, because you do. You just have been looking at it through the lens of, I got to do it all on my own. So you don't see them. They're there. They are waiting to support you. Go and talk to them. Like Deepa says, she sent an email. Send an email. Somebody wants to respond. Okay? Interdependence. Next time somebody tells you, independent woman, nah, no, I don't actually even want to be. I'm tired of being an independent woman. I want sisters and brothers and collaborators and friends and a whole network of people so that we can all move forward together. Okay, that's my last one.
Oh, I'm going to let all of that sit and simmer for a second and just, you know, like bask in all of that wonderful positive energy. I know everybody who's watching this, I've been watching the comments come in, and just, I'm so grateful for everyone who's here, and you can share this feed with your friends. Say, you got to watch this because I watched this and I love you. You should probably hear some of this wisdom. It is so, so special. And I know I put this in the comments, but if you're listening and you didn't see it, you can connect with any of these folks down in the video description. There are links to get connected with CrashBell, with Omar, with Bless, with James, and Brainstorm School, and with Deepa and Neon, and get to know what these folks are doing and make those connections and make your network bigger. That's what this whole world is about, is building community. And that's, you know, that's why we're here at Xencelabs, is because we want to build community of creatives and bring everybody together. And we're almost to the top of the hour, and I don't want to cut any of you off because I just know that there's something else simmering out there. We can keep going as long as you want. And so I'm going to open it back up to y'all and let you guys kind of just keep flowing and doing your thing if you want.
Well, did you have another question possibly that we can?
Another question from anyone else? Let me see. Let me pop back in here. So many comments about why you guys are awesome. There's not enough characters available. Something about, oh, the world teaches you you're in competition with others, yet collaboration is bigger than anything. And that is so, so true. Let me see if I'm missing any other questions that were in here. I think that's most from everyone. They're very excited. Let me see if I have anything else. So I know something that we talked about a little bit intermittently throughout all of our other sessions and discussions is, what do you hear when you hear the words that competence equals confidence, and how can you find both of those so that you increase your confidence?
I mean, that's an interesting one because, you know, I guess to understand competence is just to break down knowledge, to understand, to be able to digest and get something. And we all know knowledge is power. So just by the simple act of you understanding something new, it empowers you. It empowers you to not only understand how to apply it to your life, it empowers you to be able to speak about it. It empowers you to feel as if you know what you're talking about. You know, like, I'm not going to speak on what it's like to be a graphic designer at a large firm because I have no idea, and I would be absolutely wrong in anything I'd say. But I can definitely speak on what it's like to go into middle school and to deal with a parent and a child who are arguing with each other. And, you know, so having the competence but maybe that can sometimes be a negative thing too, right? That people don't feel that they are competent, which then will make them feel unconfident.
I was gonna
So
say imposter syndrome.
yeah, the
Imposter
imposter syndrome,
syndrome.
right? And so
Mhm.
it's a really funny thing because it's such a balance between understanding that, for one, you are competent because you can understand, and by you going through the process of knowing something, you develop competence in that idea or subject, which will then make you confident. I mean, it's just a natural response if you ask me. And the other opposite of that response is literally like when you feel incompetent, you do not have confidence. So knowledge is power. I mean, I don't know how to really express that any more than that one. Les?
Yeah. James, do you want to jump? I feel like I've been yapping.
Oh
I'll
yeah.
go
Oh
after.
no worries. Yeah, if that's cool. Like it's really interesting all the things that everyone's saying, because a lot of this actually webs together. You know what I mean? It's not like a linear thing. It's like all things connect and web together. And I think with the imposter syndrome, one of the questions is well, who are you trying to be right now? Right? Like, are you trying to be somebody else? That means you're not in that moment. Right. So just purely like hearing the discussion, being in that moment, being aware of who you are right now. I am an artist trying to learn. I'm not trying to be this. I am here to learn. I am here to improve, then grow, blah, blah, blah. And so being in that moment really helps you. And I think with that word competence, for me, that means purely trying, applying the practice, applying the energy to solve. To me, it's more about taking all of your life and the things that you've learned and failed from and using that to problem solve in that moment. To me, that's competence. And then the confidence comes from not succeeding, but practicing that application, right? Because you know there's only two outcomes, good or bad, but hey, if you're in the moment, let's triangulate all this. If you're in the moment, you use your life practices to kind of bring and problem solve in that. That's what's going to give you the energy, the passion, the focus to actually want to solve it. That's what's going to create the confidence. As a creative, there's one thing that's true. Every piece of art and creative that you make is for the first time. It's for the first time. And so therefore you are doing things for the first time. You are breaking these kind of mental chains that you think you can't do something for the first time and you'll fail. So in actuality, we are doing this. It's really about being unaware, being in that moment. So it's really cool. This is a big web of info. Just wanted to see if we can connect it some more.
I think part of that as well, in terms of the competence and confidence, is that there's a sense that you need to have 100% of the information and be skilled in at a certain level to be completely confident. And that's nonsense, you know? Nobody knows everything about everything. Some of us are better at faking it, for sure. And I think there is sometimes, not wanting to stereotype, but in terms of gender, and I see this in terms of meetings, that certain genders are far more confident in terms of speaking out, perhaps when they don't have all the information. And one of the things that I've learned to do, and I think it's really, when I get it wrong, I admit that. And make mistakes. I admit that, but I learn from it. I actually have a book where I write things down when, you know, things haven't gone quite as I thought they would, or there's a learning opportunity. So there's that moment of reflection. But I definitely relate to the imposter syndrome, because I only started working in sort of virtual and augmented reality in 2016. And it's changing so fast all the time that every day feels like a new day. I almost feel like a goldfish. It's like, what don't I know today? You know? So, but it's having enough confidence in terms of your inquiring mind about that. I think it was you, James, or Bless said earlier on about, or Omar, about being curious and wanting to continue to learn. And I think if that's your guiding North Star, then that gives you competence. Just that sort of how you start your day, how you are in your life as a human being. And it's more than being a creative, it's about who you are as a human being, because it then affects every fundamental aspect, and your energies and your connections with the universe. And Anoma, you're absolutely right around the universe. The more honest we are in terms of who we are, I think the more in sync we are with the universe. And there's almost that sort of meeting of the minds and souls. Another great question.
I agree. Just let me just open with that. just blanket statement. One thing I want to jump in on is, and this is really important to me, and I feel like I'm not alone, especially with the audience, right? Because there are people who are, and I'm going to keep hyping neurodivergence. Why? Because there's neurodivergence, ADHD and creativity go hand in hand. They go hand in hand. So if you are a creative, not that you do have ADHD, but a lot of ADHDs are creative, right? And so that the concept of imposter syndrome and competence, particularly with neurodivergence, is huge, because we spend our whole lives being told, do it this way, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, right? When in fact, it's just, no, I'm actually just sort of doing it my way, right? And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just the world has made it such. And so if you are someone who is neurodivergent, that includes autism, ADHD, I believe it's borderline OCD, borderline personality, a lot of them are under that umbrella, right? It is even more important for you to understand that your competence may not look like everybody else's, and for you to not feel a way about that and get really clear about what your competence looks like, and when you are succeeding and what those things look like for you, because the bar that you might measure yourself against is against neurotypicals, and you are neuroatypical. You will not meet that bar, and that is okay. All right, it is absolutely okay. And this world, I'm totally about decolonizing psychotherapy, because the reality is that nature made trees. She made all kinds of trees, right? Nature is the ultimate creative, right? And she made starfish. She made all kinds of starfish. But somehow, some way, she only made one kind of human. Doesn't even make sense, right? She only made one kind of brain. Doesn't even make sense, okay? So your competence, if you are dealing with imposter syndrome, any of those things, I am here to tell you, your competence will look different. It does not mean you are any less competent than anybody else. You're just being compared to something that is not comparable to you, okay? So I wanted to make sure that I added that little piece in there, because I'm always advocate for my neurodivergence.
Yeah, that's huge too. Specifically because, even as I grew up, I was always given that, oh, your child has ADHD. And I was blessed to have my mom in the mindset that she was at. She's like, well, I'm curious to know, what do you mean? He's finishing all his schoolwork and doing a good job at his schoolwork. He is the first kid he's smart. Literally, he's finishing all your work and there's no X's. There's only check marks. But you're saying because he's finished and now he's bothering other kids because they're not finished, and suddenly he has attention deficit disorder because he's bored. And I'm like, my mom thankfully, stood her ground on that. But what you said is so important, because it made me understand that the system that has created this container, it's not a real container. It's an illusion of a container that was only created to support the container. Anything outside of the container or doesn't fit in the container or looks like the container should be, it's going to get categorized. We're going to give you a specific word so that you can feel a specific way about yourself, but we're not going to develop processes to actually support you. So this is what we have, right? We have terms, but yet we have no processes in place to support the learning practices of each individual. So we say like, oh, you're not smart enough, or you're a little behind because you're not learning as fast. Well, maybe I don't like the carryover. Maybe I don't like the carryover. Maybe I want to do with little ones and sticks. I don't know. Whatever the case, it's a system that you have to understand that it's not built to expand. It was literally built in the 17 to 1800s. And we're still trying to go to social studies class to learn how to live this way. But we're not in that time anymore. And we need to understand that the system itself is not made for expansion, for even entrepreneurs. It's not. I'm sorry. It's just not. It's made specifically for a specific paradigm. And you cannot get yourself caught up in that because you feel that you're not good enough, because you don't fit into a system that's an illusion. From now on, I want you to think of it like this. I want you to maybe create a physical box, or maybe an imaginary box. And if you create a physical box, write on it systematic illusions. And I want you to start throwing all these ideas that you have about the world, like whenever you feel you're not good enough, and throw them in that box. And whenever you realize how much crap that you have in that box from the mind and the world, it's going to be full, right? But whenever you go look into the box, it's actually empty because nothing's really there. It's an illusion. So you can create whatever it is that you want. And to go to the question that we had up here, yes, Valerie, I practice meditation daily. In many ways. That's not always, I'm not going to always get up and do like a 45-minute meditation where I'm trying to like astral project out of my body. I'm not going to do that all the time. This morning, it was really intense. But yesterday, I had like 5 minutes. I had 5 minutes. I was like, you know what? Let's just get this breathing in. Let's connect with myself. Let's acknowledge that I woke up a little irritated with my family this morning, and I don't want to be that when I'm making my coffee. And let's think about the things that we have that is going on today that we are grateful for. Because immediately I'm going to go to the things that are wrong. So I got to, again, reprogram from the world. What am I grateful for? What am I practicing today? What am I doing to support Omar? And also, what am I doing to help support my family? And on the flip, a meditation practice does not look like what most people think. I'm going to reframe the word meditation. Meditation equals focus. What you focus on will be your meditation. You can meditate on creating art in the moment. That is a meditation because you are focused. You can also meditate on talking super shitty to yourself for like 3 hours. Because that's your focus. That's where your mind is going. So the point is not to meditate and find stillness. The point is to focus your mind to the things that you would like to see. Nothing more. You can focus on breathing. You can focus on your chakras. You can focus on your neuroplasticity. You can focus on the heat that is emitting from your body. You can focus on your organs. You can focus on your lips. You can focus on sound. You can focus on anything. No matter what you choose to focus on, it will still just be that focus.
That is so powerful. Yeah. And I know some of us are going to have to go soon, and I'm like so sad because I would love, and I'm sure you guys would love, to continue talking like this for like probably the next maybe 30 minutes. Then we'd probably want to go take like a water break, and then we could come back. Either way, I am just eternally grateful for all of you for coming on to our channel and for chatting with us. And to everyone who's viewing out there, thank you for coming and just bringing your questions and bringing your joy and bringing yourselves here. The fact that you are here can be step 1, 2, 1.5, but you're here and you're aware. And that is so powerful. That is so powerful. So thank you, everyone, so much for joining us at Xencelabs Creative Life Common Threads. And we'll see you next time.